Elden Ring in any way reminds you of Rona? Wait, do you think Millie have the Rona? You know, the underappreciated one who is the best girl, and I will die on this hill, and you can't persuade me otherwise because all you simps want your blue sex doll? The New York Times, feeling like it just wants to report on games to get content out there, made one of the worst articles I have seen on Elden Ring, which, by the way, is fucking fantastic. I've played all the Souls games except Bloodborne. Bloodborne's the only one I never got to because I didn't have a PS4. Don't get me wrong, it's fantastic. It's not perfect. It suffers from what I call in games, what I used to develop games, it's something I call you should have just known syndrome. There's a couple parts where you'll just get insta-killed by something there was no visual or audio indicators that could happen. But it's only in like a handful of places. A couple of the lunging hitboxes are questionable, and its balance isn't that great, but then again, all the Souls games had it's not Dark Souls 1 level, but I mean, like, all the Souls games didn't have the best balance, so... And there's only one part of the game I thought was legit bad, and that is locking you out of a giant portion of the game with no warning and no going back, because that's how I play. I like to go through blind and then go back and collect things. And there was no warning that a massive chunk of the map would get cut off at one point, and that made me mad because there was something there I really wanted. Now I have to trade for it, but anyway, this guy tries to compare Elden Ring to the pandemic in the worst, it's like the most forced way possible, that it comes off as like, not even a bad take, it's actually more hilarious than bad. In Elden Ring, the struggle feels real. The video game invokes the hardship and disappointment of the pandemic, but hope of human communion? Did anyone else think of Rona while playing Elden Ring? I think that's usually the opposite of what we do when we play games, is think about real world stuff. Now, I'm just gonna jump to the parts where he gets into the actual game itself, not the nonsense filler stuff. No medium has come close to perfectly encapsulating our situation as video games. In the beginning, when many of us were in lockdown baking mediocre sourdough, we played Animal Crossing, which involves finding comfort in simple tasks like fishing, gardening, while stranded on an island. You weren't stranded on the island. I couldn't get into New Horizons like I did New Leaf. New Leaf, I had an amazing town that I put tons of effort into, did pixel art pathways, I did my own from scratch. Probably spent like 200 hours on my town, and then like, the new one, I have like a sloppy outline I never finished. This year we're playing Elden Ring, a ruthlessly difficult game that only gets harder the more you play it. How does it get harder? That's what it's about. That about sums up what it's been to live like in the pandemic? It got easier though as time went on. What, and how does Elden Ring in any way remind you of Rona? Wait, do you think Millie have the Rona? You know, the underappreciated one who is the best girl, and I will die on this hill, and you can't persuade me otherwise because all you simps want your blue sex doll? I'm sorry, I'm just throwing shade. Elden Ring has a story that has something to do with a ring. Not exactly. I saw a lot of people dogging on that line, but I was like, actually, I think that line shows Miyazaki's brilliance when it comes to his storytelling, because he's the only one of the few developers I've seen really understand the medium of storytelling in games. And he understands that only his stories can be told in a game format. Because all of his games basically are like for Elden Ring, for example, there's two types of players. They throw you in a world, and it's like, go be Elden Lord, and you'll be like, okay. Or it'll be the other type of player that'll be like, go be Elden Lord. Why? The story can be as complex as the Halo extended lore, or as simple as Bowser took Peach. It's up to you. See, I'm that dude that obsessively reads every item description and tries to put everything together. And then when you're stuck, you just go, I'll wait for Vadi, I don't care. Alright, jumping ahead a little bit. No matter what you choose to do, you'll probably die again and again trying to do it. Sometimes for hours. That's because the slightest mistiming of a button press will make you fall to your death or open to an attack. Obligatory level vigor joke here. Even the most experienced gamers will die dozens of times in a dungeon before reaching the boss? Did this dude play, like, the regular dungeons? Like, all of the bosses in there are piss easy. Like, I can kill most of them in a couple smacks, but that's because every Souls game, I've always done the same build, which is Strength Pyromancy. But I guess in this case, it's Strength Faith, because we bonk hard and we pray hard. The main villain at the end of a game level. Why does this guy talk like it's the 80s? He sounds like a Gen Xer trying to explain modern games to boomers. And I'll skip the picture because there's kind of a major spoiler in the picture, which is kind of an asshole-ish thing to do. But just looking at the top, this man could not even take a screenshot, apparently. You couldn't even get it. It's built into the console. At some point in the game, you face a dragon. Wait, how far in the game did you play? There's like 26 of them or something. You have a choice to fight or flee, or be an asshole and summon people to fight the dragons on foot, which always annoys me because I'm like, just do it on torrent. These were designed for torrent. Stop summoning me for these stupid dragon fights on foot. You know how hard these things are on foot when you could just do it with torrent in like 5 seconds by yourself? You know how easy this shit is? I'm sorry, just some people, man. At first, you'll probably retreat and eventually acquire enough strength and a proper weapon, magic spell. You'll probably return to slay the dastardly fire breather. Bro. How old are you? You sound like a Gen Xer trying to explain things to boomers. If you're a millennial, you'll relish in your victory. Moments later, though, you'll be ambushed and killed by something nasty like a hawk gripping razor blades in its talons. Someone did not learn from the hours of gameplay. Check your corners. I've played all the Souls games, so it's sort of all of the veteran Souls players. It's ingrained in your head to look at every single corner. Check every corner. Okay, here's where we get weird. It's difficult to imagine Elden Ring having this sort of cultural cache in any other era. In year 3 of the pandemic, as vaccination rates have risen and hospitalization cases have dipped in some areas, offices and schools and restaurants have reopened, to many Americas, the dragon has been slain? What? Yet in other parts of the world, a new variant of coronavirus is driving another wave, and in New York, cases are beginning to climb again? Good work on your lockdowns, New York. That really worked out well for you, didn't it? But what the fuck? How did it... That was like the biggest... That was the biggest turn ever. You didn't even smoothly connect those two. You completely just jumped to something else. As some of us let our guard down to have some semblance of a normal life, we are bracing ourselves for that stupid bird around the corner that still might kill us. I'm just like... Did you even pay attention? Because if anything, you were trying to compare things to Rona. Wouldn't you do the rot? Wouldn't that make more sense? Our hard-earned lesson of the pandemic, to expect disappointment and more struggle, has trained us well for Elden Ring. When did you expect disappointment in Elden Ring? And how does it train you well? I'm sorry, do you have to get good when it comes to Rona? I'm like, I don't... How are these connected? And second of all, down here, one, this is blurry as shit because you recorded your screen when there's literally a screen recording. I'm assuming you're on PS4. They have that, or PS5. And second, those aren't even the birds with the knife talons. Those are the Farm Azula birds. Those are different birds. You didn't even get the right birds. Oh, there's the name who did the video. Kelsey, how old are you? There is no way Gen Z or Millennial was like, let's just record the screen with our phone. No. This has to be a boomer or something. Elden Ring's choose-your-own-adventure format is more inclusive for a populace that can't seem to agree on anything. In Elden Ring, there is no right or wrong? What? Think of all the division and anger and hatred over, what was going on in politics over Rona. Did any of that translate? What? To defeat a boss, you can carefully study its moves and plan an attack, or you can cheese it with a cheap trick that requires no skill and ensures victory. Either way, a win is a win. Yeah, I actually agree with that. I mean, personally, I don't cheese. I just like to 1v1 bosses. Even though it takes longer because it's hard, with the exception of canonical summons. What I mean by, like, if it's a story character summons, I'll use that. Otherwise, I just 1v1 bosses, even though I end up cursing a lot, but whatever, I did it. Such a flexible game may resonate with players worldwide and bring them together in a time where people are choosing their own truth. Choosing their own truth about masks, shots, and information they read online in general? What? I'm sorry, that comparison doesn't work at all. Players mostly suffer through Elden Ring alone, but there are parts so difficult, like an ultra-tough boss fight, that people will need to get help from others online. To accommodate this, the game erects small statues in challenging areas that act as summoning posts to bring in a cooperator. Once the mission is complete, the Good Samaritan disappears. You know this person didn't play enough of the game because there's no screenshot here of Let Me Solo Her, which is a problem. You were set up for that and you missed it. And we have more blurry recording of the screen. Why? Also, I could never get into, side note, I could never get into power stancing because I was like, yo, I want my giant bonk stick and then I need to have access to my big rock at all times. So many people sleep on big rock. You know how easy it is to stagger bosses with that thing while you're waiting for your opening to bonk? You come into each other's lives for a minute and disappear and still make an impact. It's not really one player versus the game, it's the entire community of players versus the game. What about invaders then? What if we let's put this in context of the Carrion Retaliation glitch players. I'm sure we're gonna have people also cursing about the Rivers of Blood players, which personally, I'm like whatever about. I'm like, it just makes the game boring when every invader, it's like 80% of invaders have it. It's just like, okay, I'm just gonna parry you, kill you, and move on. By the time I had finished Elden Ring with help from some friends and strangers online, over about 5 weeks I didn't come out of the game feeling more anxious or pessimistic. I ended up making plans with friends I hadn't seen in 2 years. Well, at least that's good. Many of us have endured the pandemic alone because restrictions and health risks made it difficult to travel and gather indoors. I'm just gonna say for me personally, I'm going to laugh in libertarian. It has been an impossible situation to navigate and struggles go on, but we're in this together in the long haul, why not turn to one another? So it's like, the Carrion Retaliation glitch people, are those the people who have like Rona and go around coughing on like street signs? Are the Rivers of Blood players the ones who are like, yeah, I got a low fever, but I'm gonna go out anyway? But man, this just feels like one of those things that they wanted to put out just to go like, we gotta get content out, just make something up. Yeah, good job, New York Times. Keep doing this, because it is, thank you for the, 5 minutes of hilarious entertainment. You're a trash news publication anyway, I might as well get some humor out of you while I still can.